We kind of associate you with maybe more dramatic roles, so was this kind of an excuse to have a bit of fun, really?
Oh, yes. I mean, I want to do... I think having kind of been allowed to let my hair down a bit in... Made in... No, not Made in Dagenham. What was the other one? See, I'm actually very ditzy, but people don't realise that. In An Education, it was a sort of licence in a way to do comedy. It kind of opened up doors, and suddenly I got to work with, in 1 year, with Owen Wilson and Rowan Atkinson. So I thought, well, this is good. And I think once you've made people laugh, you want to do it again, because it's much more addictive than making people cry. It's somebody said, "Oh, you were really funny." It's a sort of delicious, intoxicating thing. I mean, look at these men who've made a career of it. Obviously, in this film, I don't get to be funny at all, but it's still a very funny film.
I was going to say, she's sort of the counterpoint. Is she the poison grace to Johnny's bumbling, full acting stuff?
Yes, I think that's a very elegant way of putting it. But I also relished the chance to give one of Rowan Atkinson's creations a really good love affair. I thought there's never been a really great romance for Mr. Bean or Johnny English, or and because Kate, my character, is a behavioural psychologist, she's used to sort of reading people's body language. And of course, Johnny English is a fascinating study. He's like the sort of perfect, clinical study for someone like her. And of course, she starts off being fascinated with him, and then suddenly finds him really endearing and starts to fall for him. And it's quite a sweet story, actually.
Were you a big fan of Rowan Atkinson as well?
Yeah, huge fan. I mean, that was the main reason to do it, as well as thinking, having been in a Bond film, I sort of also loved the idea of doing something that had all the ambition of a Bond film, but all the freedom of a comedy. And it felt like shooting a Bond film, because in a way the production design, was done incredibly seriously, like they were doing a proper big-scale spy thriller. And similarly, the lighting, the Danny Cohen who lit it, just lit it as though he might have been lighting Bourne. So it means that you've got this kind of great story on which to hang the comedy. And it makes the comedy much funnier, I think.
With Rowan stuff as well, if you had to pick Mr. Bean or Blackadder?
I've always been a Mr. Bean kind of girl. I mean, I can watch Mr. Bean over and over, and I did watch it over and over when I knew I was going to work with him again, and you just marvel at it, and how much of it is mime, and how brilliant his timing is, and I mean, I just think it's genius stuff.
It's an underrated thing, I guess, doing slapstick, is it? I mean, you think it...
Well, he can do everything, Johnny, Rowan. He can do mime, he can do verbal comedy. I mean, Johnny English, talks. I think people think Rowan can't talk sometimes if they've only seen Mr. Bean, or they think he talks in a funny voice. And his verbal comedy in this, his verbal timing is as good as his physical timing. And he's brilliant in close-up, and he's brilliant in wide shot. He plays a character from right to the tips of his toes to the kind of tips of his ears. He can use every muscle of his body. It's brilliant.
How good are you at keeping a straight face as well? Are you one who sort of always
You just have to say, you just have to think, okay, take 15. If I laugh again, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to be fired.